Well, joining us now, Real Clear Politics Associate Editor and columnist A.B. Stoddard, former Republican National Chair Michael Steele, and Jonathan Lemire, Politico's White House Bureau Chief and host of MSNBC's Way Too Early. And, of course, in recent weeks, MJ as well. So, A.B., let's talk about this. The base seems to be shrugging off Trump's legal troubles. We heard Chris Christie, Nikki Haley using the indictments against him. And there's exclusive NBC News reporting showing that out of the dozens who served in Donald Trump's cabinet, only 4 say he should be reelected. And I don't think any of those 4 were from the National Security Cabinet, which organized even while he was still in office to try to protect him and the country from what they feared would be abuses, according to my reporting. But, A.B., it's the base that's going to decide the primary, not Donald Trump's former officials or his political rivals, right? 71% of Republicans in that New York Times polling today saying they need to stand behind Donald Trump.
You're right, Andrea, that the elites in Washington, the electeds in the establishment, they were hoping all along there would be a critical mass in the Republican coalition that would come out against Trump, that after January 6th, that would be the end of it, and that those voices in the establishment who served in the Trump administration coming out and saying they could not support him again would matter. Nothing matters to the hard core of the base, the 37% that are going to stick with Trump no matter what. But the idea that 17% of the Republican primary electorate, only 17 believes he has committed serious federal crimes. We know from other surveys and focus groups that when they believe that he committed these crimes, they don't care. So I think this is a devastating poll for Ron DeSantis. I don't see how he has a path.
So, Michael Steele, DeSantis is back on the trail in New Hampshire today after restructuring his campaign, firing a whole lot of people, trying to cut costs. He gave an economic speech this morning in New Hampshire, but his rivals are not giving him a pass on his comments about slavery and black history. Let's watch.
DeSantis started this fire with the bill that he signed, and now he doesn't want to take responsibility for whatever is done in the aftermath of it.
Obviously, we should be teaching kids about the awful legacy of slavery.
We can all agree that there were no positives that came out of slavery. He just should come out and say no positives came out of slavery.
What slavery was really about separating families, about mutilating humans, and even raping their wives. It was just devastating. So I would hope that every person in our country, and certainly running for president, would appreciate that.
I mean, Michael, you know, slavery wasn't a jobs program.
No, it was not. No, it was not. And there's so much to unpack here, so I'm going to do it real quick. Number one, to AB's point, the news isn't that Donald Trump is at 54%. The news is going to be when Donald Trump is at 37%. And there's someone else who's eating into that number. So all of the noise around Donald Trump and polling right now is just a waste of time because we all know how this ends. 2, these candidates can find a voice to go after Ron DeSantis, right? But they don't find the voice to go after the guy who's in their way. Ron DeSantis isn't the guy to beat in the Republican primary, all right? So all this bravado on race is laughable because what do you think about Donald Trump when he says they're fine people on both sides, when he embraces the Proud Boys, when he tells them to stand back and stand by? I didn't hear your voice on that. I didn't hear the criticisms coming out on that. So spare me this sanctimonious, you know, sort of clapback at Ron DeSantis, who's at 17% in this poll, right? He's not your target. But they won't go after the guy who should be because they're afraid of him. They're afraid of his base. They're afraid of being ridiculed by him. And until that changes, none of this matters. We can just call this race and move on to something else because this thing is toast for these candidates if they cannot find the wherewithal between now and getting on that stage to go after Donald Trump on everything, not just, you know, pick and choose a little bit here and there.
Well, Jonathan, Donald Trump today is posting, let them debate so I can see who I might consider for vice president. He's dangling that job now, adding fuel to reports that he's planning to skip the August 23rd debate. Could the debate, though, be do or die for Ron DeSantis?
Yeah, it's certainly a big moment for the rest of the candidates. I mean, I guess tip your cap to Donald Trump there. He remains an exquisite internet troll, putting everyone else down with that tweet, making it clear that A, he's not going to participate in that debate, and B, that everyone else is playing for second, playing for VP. But the stakes will be high, and I think you're right to highlight DeSantis in particular, whose campaign has been so struggling so much in recent months. He's had to have a number of reshufflings. He's fired staff. He's cut back on expenses. Donors are having second thoughts, and he continues to slide in the polls, trying to find a new message. But the risk that he runs with Trump not being there, and frankly, other candidates reluctant to criticize Trump anyway, with the exception of Chris Christie and maybe Asa Hutchinson. Well, who's the next biggest target on the stage? It'll be DeSantis. He'll be the guy in the middle, and he's likely to take the brunt of the attacks, particularly from Christie, who's already been hammering him, and that may not reverse his slide.
Yeah, and Trump, by the way, again now on Truth Social, is saying that he expects the indictment from Jack Smith to be imminent. But Jonathan, also, Hunter Biden's former business partner, Devon Archer, is sitting for a transcribed interview with the House Oversight Committee today after conservatives tried to spin a request by the DOJ into something more. Explain all of this.
Yeah, well, first of all, to your point, the grand jury in Washington hearing the Jack Smith January 6th case for Trump meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So perhaps, indeed, we'll have the answer there in the coming days. So Devon Archer is a former Hunter Biden business partner. He is the latest play by House Republicans who are investigating Hunter Biden, who are trying to claim that Hunter Biden, helped enrich himself off of his father's name and maybe even enriched his father. Now, let's be clear right up front. They have produced no evidence of that. Hunter Biden's business dealings, yes, perhaps unseemly, but no one has proved that they are illegal. No one has proved that now President Biden benefited from them. Archer is someone who has just been sentenced to prison for a year for an unrelated fraud charge, and the Republicans over the weekend jumped on this idea that that was the Biden Department of Justice putting their finger on the thumb on the scale of justice, I should say, and pushing him to prison to prevent him from talking. Devon Archer's attorney made crystal clear that was not the case, saying the two things are not related. Archer is reporting to prison. He knows he has to do that. That has nothing to do with his testimony, which he is giving anyway. It's the latest attempt by Republicans to try to use the smoke machine and criticize President and his son.